Oil is at the heart of Donald Trump's Venezuelan gamble because through control of its vast reserves, he thinks he can deliver his political and economic goals, dictating the country's future, enriching American companies, perhaps bringing down the oil price and sending a message about American power to his adversaries. So how might Donald Trump leverage Venezuelan oil? Who are the winners and losers going to be? And how long might it take to revive the industry? Well, even before the seizure of Nicolas Maduro, the naval blockade offshore of Venezuela gave the US a chokehold on its oil industry. This shows us the position of 11 US Navy vessels on January 3rd, the day Nicolas Maduro was captured. Now, the aim of the blockade was to prevent tankers in the so-called shadow fleet transporting sanctioned oil to Venezuela's few remaining customers. Now, we can see the sanctioned vessels here offshore, pictured on January the 7th, some a bit further afield in the Caribbean. Now, the blockade, as we know, has not been impregnable. Two shadow tankers evaded it and were seized earlier this week, one in the Caribbean, the other in the North Atlantic with RAF support. Now, there are some exceptions. Some ships can get through, and they are American. The US imports 20% of Venezuela's oil produced by Chevron, which is exempted from sanctions by Joe Biden. Now, we've been tracking 6 tankers, probably Chevrons, that have a history of transporting Venezuelan crude to the US Gulf Coast, where the heavy crude that Venezuela produces can be refined and processed. We take a closer look at one of them. This is the Minerva Astra. On January the 5th, this was shot, sailing under a Greek flag. It left Pascagoula in Mississippi 8 hours after Maduro's seizure, and it was passing Cuba when this image was captured. Now, we can see the effectiveness of the blockade from Venezuela's exports. This shows monthly exports in 2025. See, the bulk of it is going to China. That's the yellow area. A bit here in blue, that's actually Spain receiving oil for historic debt. But most of it going to China, apart from the red, which is the US, as we've talked about. But look what happens in December. The American slice is still there, but the analyst Kepler, who put this together, have marked the rest of it as unknown because it's just unclear where it is. Their hunch, the assumption, is it's been loaded onto tankers, probably bound for China, that now cannot leave. There's another way of slicing this data, which is looking at where is Venezuelan oil stored offshore, at sea, in limbo on tankers. You can see if we look back through last year, small amounts in offshore storage because it's being loaded, unloaded and sold on. But look what happens in December and January. Once the blockade is in place, it jumps up. The yellow, again, is on Chinese ships. The blue is ships off Venezuela. Green is Malaysia, which has a big refining industry. The red, interestingly, is formally, officially, West Africa. This is ship tracking data, but many analysts suspect these are spoof locations to prevent the real whereabouts being known, so probably part of the shadow fleet. Now, Venezuela's onshore storage is filling up too. Now, that means production will inevitably have to slow down, but the state of the storage tells us a great deal about the decrepit oil infrastructure in Venezuela, decayed by years of underinvestment. Now, this was taken at the Puerto Miranda storage facility, this shot, in May 2022, and it shows oil storage tanks. They rise and fall depending about the volume of oil. If they've got a white roof on them, it looks like they're well maintained and probably working, but brown and black indicates rusting, decay, and probably not in use. If we look 3 years later, this was taken New Year's Eve 2025, many, many more of these tanks appear rusted and out of use. And the analyst Kairos, who gave us these images, they estimate that 1/3 of the storage is out of action. We can look at another measure of the decay in the Venezuelan oil industry, and that's pollution. This shows methane emissions per barrel of oil from the 20 largest producers in the world. So the better resourced, the cleaner the industry should be. Look at Norway, Saudi Arabia, Canada, massive, massive oil producers. Venezuela has comfortably the dirtiest industry. There is another way of looking at this. How many operational drilling rigs does Venezuela have? According to this data, only 2 last year. You use these to build new oil wells. We don't have the data for 21 and 22. That tells you about the gap. But go back a decade and there were more than 60. And if you haven't got drills, you can't make new wells. That slows down how quickly you can expand production. Let's just have a look at Venezuela's historic oil production figures. Before Maduro, even under Hugo Chavez, more than 3 million barrels a day. Fast forward to this year, last year, fewer than 1 million barrels were produced. Now, Donald Trump wants to increase production, but the forecasts are that to double production to 2 million barrels a day could take 110 billion of investment to bring it back to that some kind of scale. Now, American companies are going to need serious guarantees about the worth of their contracts and the legitimacy of this whole operation before they make that kind of investment. But Donald Trump will bank on his word. The profits on offer. They will deliver the world's largest oil reserves and the political power that comes with them to the United States.